Hey, travel friends. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most iconic things that San Francisco is known for, and that's the cable car.
Yeah, it's cool. It's they're cool. I have to admit that before I rode on the cable car and before I learned more about them, I was like, it's like a trolley or something.
Typical Jimmy fashion.
They are very cool. And I think you kind of have to know a little bit more about their history and also how they function to really appreciate them. So first, let's talk about the most obvious thing is kind of like riding them and how to get on them.
So there's four main lines. We caught the cable car where I think a lot of people catch it, which is in the Fisherman's Wharf. It's actually a really cool area because the cable cars come down and then they do this really cool spin. There's probably some real professional name for it, but they spin and then they head back up. And it's really fun because the line is always long. You get some tickets, but you get to watch the cable cars turn, and it kind of keeps it enjoyable while you're in line watching these cars.
I think you have to buy separate tickets for the cable cars.
Yes.
That's different than the metro ticket or some of the other public transportation tickets. I think it's a really fun experience, and I think the most optimal way you want to do it is sort of go somewhere and catch it and then ride it on the way back. Especially if on the way back there's a lot of hills. It
Yes.
saves you lots of like walking up hills, and also I think the views is great. Like you really, you see the hills, the views. It's great.
Yeah, we did that. We walked down, we explored the Fisherman Wharf area, and then we took it back up, heading toward the Cable Car Museum. So we were able to go to the Cable Car Museum, which is free, and it's actually really, really cool.
This was the part where I was like, oh, now I appreciate this way, way more. What's really, really cool is that the cables are constantly rotating along these lines under the streets. And if you're like walking on the street and you're near them, you kind of hear this humming. And the humming is actually the cables just, yeah, turning down on the street. And how the cars operate is that there's these levers that the operator controls. They have this thing where that hugs, that catches on to the cables. And then so once the car catches on the cables, it gets pulled along by the cable. And I think that's just really, really cool.
Yeah. When you're in the Cable Car Museum, you get to look down and you're just seeing all of this cable.
Yeah, you're seeing these huge wheels that are moving the cables, and under the museum, you see some of the wheels and cables that, it's like a sneak peek
Yeah,
on
that
what's
are under the street.
Right, on what's actually under the street. It's a very cool, I guess, relic of the past, of how things used to be, and I think it's very, very cool and very San Francisco-esque.
And speaking of relics, they have some really cool relics in the museum. So like the original cable cars look very different from the current cable cars. It was just fascinating. It was a very cool museum that's free that I recommend everyone going because I feel like you just have so much more of an appreciation and then you want to keep riding.
If you just like ride the cable cars, it's kind of like just like a trolley, it's like yeah,
It's an experience.
Right, but I think if you don't understand how the cable cars work and you don't understand the history of it, which the museum will show you, I think it means less. But even if you want to skip the museum, I think just riding the cable cars, it's a great. I think it's great for the family. I think kids would absolutely love it.
And adults. I loved it. I think it's just really fun. We rode it a few times. Everyone that's riding on the cable car, you do see a few commuters, but a lot of them are tourists, but they're also so excited. It's just like this whole amped up experience, and everyone's waving to each other when they're going up and down. And I think one really cool thing that we did is the line we rode from Fisherman's Wharf up went right past Lombard Street. So as we're on the cable car, we got to see all these like cars go very, very slowly down, which was just it's a different perspective of San Francisco than in a car on foot.
Yeah. So do you recommend it?
I highly recommend it.
I give it a thumbs up too. Yeah.
It's so fun. Well, everyone,
All right.
happy travels.
All right. Bye.